Welcome inside episode 464 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan in the heart of our nation's capital in Ottawa, Ontario, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains in Pilsy. You know that feeling? You get up for New Year's Eve and you're waiting for midnight. The anticipation is building. Then you get to 12:01. You're like, all right, it's just another day. That's how I felt watching the Sens play the Leafs on Saturday night.
And Ross, it wasn't just another day. It was an awful day if you were an Ottawa Senators fan. 6-0 loss to the Leafs. However, I'm going to put a little spin zone on this, Ross. Whoa. The baby Sens beat the baby Leafs to start off the new year. So the Leafs win, the Belleville Senators win. We're okay here, right?
I don't think Sens fans will agree with that, but we will recap both the AHL win, the NHL loss, and we said we'd give some New Year's resolutions out to members of the Ottawa Senators. So let's get into all that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Monday, January 3rd in Pilsy. My eyes, they still hurt from that 6-0 loss.
My ears still hurt, too, from hearing that goal horn. Just everything hurts after that. I mean, the hangover wasn't even the worst part of New Year's Day this time, Ross, because losing 6-0 to anyone in the NHL is bad. But 6-0 to your provincial rivals on Hockey Night in Canada in the first game you've had in weeks to kick off a new year is absolutely atrocious. Like, there's nothing. There's like, we'll try to find some positives here, Ross, but really there is not a lot of them.
Not a whole lot. And spoiler alert, we gave away at least 2 of those positives in the postcast, which you can catch after every Ottawa Senators game. I know they're few and far between right now. We'll get into what was supposed to be today an Ottawa Senators game day, postponed another one against the Minnesota Wild now. Their next scheduled game, January 6th in Seattle. Fingers crossed that happens. We know our boy UK Senator is coming all the way from across the pond to christen the Senators' first visit to Climate Pledge Arena. But if you missed it on the postcast, I just want to go out there and start with a positive, and then we'll, break down the game. But Alex Formenton, I think, probably played his best game of the year. He was all over the puck in the offensive zone, killed penalties, 4 minutes plus, and 6 shots on goal, too. So he was one of the only guys firing pucks to the net because the Sens got outshot 40-23 in this one. So I just want to get that in there to start, and now we can take it away from there, Pills.
Well, I'll stick on this because Formenton was the one player that DJ Smith in his post-game presser was complimenting and was highlighting, so that's good. And Formenton was one of the only guys who, despite all the jumbling of the lines, was able to play their game consistently, right? Like, even the top guys in Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson, they had arguably some of their worst nights, some of their worst play in that game without Josh Norris as their center. And Tim Stützle started with them. That didn't work out. Him and Tierney end up switching, and Tierney doesn't really work out for them either. So it was a tough game for everyone, but Formenton was able to stay in stride, and he got a couple decent offensive chances. Like, he could have had a goal or 2 there in that game.
Yes, he could have. In his 19 minutes and 9 seconds, that's a career high for Alex Formenton. So good to see him getting some confidence. But I'll pick up where you left off. Josh Norris missing his first game ever. This guy's played 84 straight games between the last 2 seasons. He's on the COVID protocol list. And you could tell that sent a ripple effect down an already thin center depth. When you're rolling out a 19-year-old guy who's played wing for 75 out of 81 career games. Last night was game 82, Saturday for Tim Stützle. And then behind him, Chris Tierney, sometimes healthy scratch. Dylan Gambrell picked up for a 7th round pick, sometimes healthy scratch at the start. And Adam Gaudette, a guy who the coach just hates seeing on his lineup card. I don't think there's a player that DJ Smith trusts less than Adam Gaudette. -4 in 15 minutes of ice time, by the way, if you're keeping track for him with the Senators. That might be the thinnest center depth we've seen this entire rebuild, Pilsy, and that is saying something.
Yeah, no kidding. And but hey, Clark Bishop was back, Ross. So
Oh,
really,
right.
this team
Playing the wing.
should be fine,
Playing the
right?
wing. That was the funniest part. They keep going. Oh, yeah, we lost Pinto, White, and Bishop. That's why we're struggling down the middle. Bishop, now it's not like they're easing him back in. He's played 5 games, or at least he's been around for a month. I know they haven't played much down in Belleville, but then they put him on the wing. I was like, are you kidding me? So funny.
Yeah, well, he had to get Gaudette at center, right? I mean,
Center of the bench.
But say what you want, he was 100% in the faceoff dot. So
Can't say that for many others.
Yeah, but Gaudette, that's like, you might as well give him a dog collar, because that guy is in the doghouse, and I don't think he's ever getting out of there. It's going to be a cold January for him. And but with COVID protocols, who knows? You just need warm bodies at some point.
Yeah, that's why we should have brought our gear. I should have at least come into Ottawa, because I know the Ottawa U goalie's got to go out for a skate. Well, I'm still craving a live podcast from the crease, you and I at either end of practice ice. It's
That'd be awesome.
Arena. But man, you mentioned it, like there's just no depth on this team. And not only that, the Maple Leafs had their COVID issues. And whoa, would you look at that? Nationally televised game in Toronto. Toronto gets multiple players back from COVID protocol, including Mitch Marner, including Morgan Riley. And it was just a complete cakewalk for this Leafs team. I don't think they even broke a sweat. They had the puck all night, as evidenced in part by their 65% in the faceoff circle. And that regressed a little bit. At one point, it was 75. Every 4 faceoffs, the Leafs were snapping back 3. And that goes to show a bit with the center depth. And outside of Gaudette, the centers were just absolutely atrocious in the faceoff circle. Tim Stützle, 13%. Dylan Gambrell, 13%. Brady Tkachuk, who we know takes faceoffs more often than most wingers, 38%. And Chris Tierney, the lone man over 50 outside of Gaudette, who I think took like 2 faceoffs. But Tierney was at 52%. But really, it just didn't matter. It just didn't matter in this game. It was 0-0 for the longest time. The Sens did well to kill off those 2 penalties early on in the game. But after that, they get their own, and bingo, bango, bongo, it's 2-0 Leafs.
Yeah, and like, I really thought, and we talked about this in the postcast, I really thought that was a momentum turning point when they finally got that power play. It's still 0-0. They've survived the onslaught of Leaf attacks. They haven't had any momentum up to this point. Okay, Morgan Riley, their best defenseman, is now in the box. Let's take advantage of this. 2 goals scored against on your own power play. The same penalty, the Leafs got 2 shorties, and it was a 2-on-1 and a breakaway. So, like, what are you going to do? Like, I think at that point, you're just done. Like, this game is over. If you're Matt Murray, this is how you're coming back, and this is how the boys set you up for the first period. Because before that, Ross, he was playing pretty well. He had a flurry of shots to deal with. Not too many rebounds. I thought he looked confident in his crease. But then those 2 goals happened, and I don't think he was able to hold on to it. Or at least the Sens defense weren't giving him a chance to try to hold on to this game.
Yeah, that .850 save percentage for Matt Murray, 34 saves on 40 shots, should be shared between the whole team. Like that's tough look for going under his stat line. He stopped 9 of the first 9 shots when he was shorthanded. He stopped. The 10th got by him. Ilya Mikheyev, the wraparound, not one that we loved in the third period to make it 5-0. The only one I think was worse was when William Nylander's teeing up a slap shot from the point, and it just goes clean in for 6-0 at that point. But I think the real stressor here is we mentioned the big players back for the Leafs, and they didn't contribute, at least until Nylander in the third period. Like Justin Hull, his first goal of the year. I'm pretty sure it's like his first goal in a long time. Then Ilya Mikheyev gets his first goal of the year. Those are the 2 shorties. And then in the second period, it's TJ Brody's second of the year. So these aren't the Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, Marner. Those aren't the guys that killed you last night. It's these depth players, which surprised me even more, because when the Leafs pride themselves, the Leafs paid $23 million to Tavares and Matthews. Did the Sens 4 centermen last night? Did they make $2 million combined? No, Tierney's at 4. Tierney's at 4. They're all combined under 6.
Yeah,
like they're each making like $850. It's unreal, the discrepancy. So I was shocked that it wasn't those big guns that were killing the Sens last night. It was the depth players and just costly mistakes again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the Sens were able to hold on and survive the big attacks, but eventually things slip through the cracks, right? It may not be the big guys. The cracks are a little small for Matthews and Marner to get through. Sens are covering them tightly, but guys like Mikheyev, guys like Brody, they were able to find their way. And then Nylander did get 2 goals, but at that point, the game's already out of hand.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really the backbreaking thing there. So, yeah, I think all around this is a tough wake up call for the Sens. But they don't like to use the excuse of COVID, but I think that's a big thing. Like Josh Norris really changes the dynamic of this team, and like Tim Stützle started on that top line. Okay, you're going up against Matthews. That didn't work out. All right, let's move into the second line. Okay, you're going up against Tavares now. Like either one of those center matchups, especially in the faceoff dot, you're setting him up for failure there, right? Because this is a new, fresh centerman that is not used to going up against guys like that in the middle of the ice. So I think it was a real tough opportunity for Stützle there.
Stützle 1 for 8 in the faceoff circle last night. He was 1 for 8 against Philly as well. So
Yeah.
do some math there. It's not looking good for him snapping him back. But again, still a teenager for another week and a half. And we keep pounding the Josh Norris drum, and it's fairly so. This guy's the number 1 center, the leading goal scorer on this team in the calendar year. But there were more than just him out. You're looking at Nick Paul, who takes faceoffs, who's been a centerman before. So that just thins out your options even more if you're DJ Smith. And how about the faceoff magician, Tyler Ennis? The guy who's like 89% on the year, snaps him back like he's taking wrist shots at the outdoor rink. The way he just has straight bodies. All right, let's go. So, I mean, that's a lot of regulars out of the lineup up front. Dylan Hetherington, we're not going to stay too long on him. He's more of a replacement level player at the best of times. But Lassie Thompson got in, and JBD was the late scratch as well. So you got to think kind of come see, come ça when you're looking at JBD out, Lassie Thompson in, like the same type of situation, a developing youngster. But Lassie was out muscled again a little bit sometimes. And that's made me nervous because he looked good in his first few games up. But I think this guy, it might be best for him to stay in Belleville consistently a little bit more. Let's get more into this game in a minute where we'll break down one positive. I gave you my positive, Pillsy. I need one from you. That's coming up next. We'll touch on the Belleville Senators getting in the win column against the Toronto Marlies and some of our New Year's resolutions for these Ottawa Senators players. But I'm exhausted. It's still right after New Year's. You still have to worry about how you're going to maintain energy. Well, why not reach for a Built Bar? The protein bar that tastes like a candy bar comes in 16 amazing flavors. So if you need to take them day after day, you're not going to get tired of same old, because Built Bars are 100% covered in chocolate. They're soft and easy to chew. But even though it tastes like a candy bar, you're getting a great nutritional snack. You can lose or maintain weight while indulging in this delicious treat because they're low in calorie and low in sugar, but they're high in protein and high in fiber. Everything you want and need in one delicious treat. So go to BuiltBar.com right now and see all the protein bars available for you. We recommend the mixed box of Built Bars. Go see it for yourself right now. Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. All right, Pillsy, before we move on from this atrocious 6-0 loss, and while I'm going to give you a little more time to percolate on some positives for this Ottawa Senators team, the box score was not pretty. Zach Sanford, a hat trick of penalties. That was a tough look for him. He only ends up playing 759, but the coach didn't have many other options to put out there. So he gets 3 penalties. I already mentioned Formanton with 6 shots on goal. Well, Formanton had 6, Brandstrom had 3, and Chabot had 3. The team only had 23. So quick math, 3 guys, 2 of them defensemen, had more than half of the shots the entire team last night. And Matt Murray, 34 saves. Let's start with that, Pillsy. Your thoughts on Matt Murray's return from an AHL stint?
I feel like a bit of a broken record here, and maybe this is the goalie hugger in me, but again, a 6-0 loss, and it's tough for me to put so much blame on Matt Murray because with the 2 goals we talked about, shorthanded goals, 2-on-1 and a breakaway. Then later on in the game, William Nylander has a breakaway. That wraparound goal, I didn't love, but Thomas Chabot was fumbling with his new stick because he broke his and grabbed another player's, and he gets tied up with Matt Murray. makes it tough for him to push back over there. The last Nylander goal, sure, it goes clean in from the point. There's a million bodies in front of the net. He can't see that, right? So there's not a lot of goals where I'm really faulting. And then the other Mikheyev goal was a weird Spezza hits the side of the net. Leafs take the puck behind the net and then pass it out front. No defenseman covering him. Matt Murray's looking around and he's lost. So really, there's plays where you're like, Matt Murray could have done this and could have done that and could have made the save. But when it's 6 plays where he's not really in a perfect position and expected to make those saves, then you can't really put all the blame on him. Like, again, defensive breakdowns are the issue here. But again, when you're looking at having so many guys out and having to rely on younger players like Lasse Thompson to kill penalties and to be out there for longer than he should be too early in his career, these kind of breakdowns are going to happen up against a fully healthy powerhouse team like the Leafs. So I don't really blame Matt Murray here, but also, like, holy crap, we're talking about a guy who's 0-6. He's got some of the worst numbers in the NHL for a goaltender. At some point, he needs to steal a game, and we haven't seen anything really even close to that. And, like, the thing, too, is, Ross, like, I'm trying to pump up Matt Murray here. I'm trying to support him, but I'll be honest, when there's a breakaway coming in on Matt Murray, I've already counted it as a goal. Like, I don't have a lot of utmost confidence in him that he can make the big save in big moments. Like, he can be consistent and he can make good saves throughout a game, but when it comes down to, can he beat a shooter one-on-one? Can he stop them? Probably not.
Yeah, the numbers are tough to look at. 0-6 in 7 games with a .367 goals against average and an .883 save percentage. But I need a positive from you now, Pilsy. What can a Sens fan hold on to after watching that disaster and say, okay, at least this dude was on the right track?
Well, I mean, I have one positive, but I just want to stick on Matt Murray a little longer here. Like, what's with the team also? And I think this is where the whole scapegoat relationship thing caused a real ripple. Like, every single time Matt Murray plays, this team comes out flat.
Yeah, fair.
Like, have this team had a good game in front of Matt Murray in the 6 starts he's had this year? Not really.
One.
Well, that's when he got injured, right?
He couldn't finish the game. I thought they played well in that Rangers game. They were up 2-1 when he left. But other than that,
that's fair.
No.
So,
that's a lie. The San Jose game. Remember they lost that game 6-3?
Yeah.
In San Jose. That was the game before he was placed on waivers. Again,
that was the nail in the coffin.
That's the only one. But you're still 5 out of 7, Pilsy. So I'm not taking that away.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I think the relationship there must be tough. I don't know what the dynamic is in the room is now with Matt Murray. So that's something to keep an eye on. But let's head to the positives. And my biggest wish under the Christmas tree, Ross, was get Brandstrom playing in games, give him an opportunity here. And I would say he got that opportunity.
PK superstar.
Also, he got a chance to kill some penalties. Yeah, exactly. Like you're talking about. So 3.5 minutes there. He doesn't really kill penalties often. And DJ Smith was quick to say that he probably won't continue to do this because Zaitsev and Josh Brown are coming back, which is disappointing. That Brandstrom won't get that opportunity. But these are the kinds of challenges that Brandstrom needs to face, and he needs to get used to having this time on ice. And hey, you're probably not the top power play, puck moving offensive defenseman that you thought you were going to be, Eric Brandstrom. So how are you going to adapt, and how are you going to find ways to make yourself useful? Killing penalties is one of those ways. So I thought that was a positive sign. And for his first game back, getting almost 16 minutes of total time on ice is pretty good too. Like you mentioned, he had 3 shots. So I really thought Brandstrom had a good showing for considering this was his first time back in a long time. So that's a positive that I'm looking for the Sens to build on. And unfortunately, with it's looking like Thomas Chabot was not at practice, and who knows what's going on there, if that's a precursor to COVID protocol. But the minutes are going to be there for Brandstrom, so let's see if he can take a hold of them.
This is what the Senators are dealing with right now. So in COVID protocol, Jacob Bernard Docker, Anton Forsberg, Dylan Hetherington, Josh Norris, Nick Paul. And on the injured list, Josh Brown, who returned to practice, still a little while away from his broken hand, I want to say it was. He definitely had a broken bone from blocking a shot there.
Yeah.
Then you've got Shane Pinto, Colin White, we know those are long-term injuries. And then Nikita Zaitsev, probably about 2 more weeks away. So lots of regulars out of lineup, but this is a team that's 7th in the Atlantic, 30th in the National Hockey League, and still looking for their 10th win. They're not going to get much of a chance in the next few days, at least, because they've had their latest game postponed. Supposed to be tonight against the Minnesota Wild. That makes it now 9 games for the Senators to make up. 8 of them will come on home ice. So that's a little bit of solace that Sens can take. Lots of home games that will be later in the year. But Minnesota, again, another good team that they're going to have to face. These are not the Detroits, Montreals, Arizonas, Buffaloes of the world. These are going to be some tough games to win. But maybe they have one of those bad teams coming up, because their next game will be Thursday night, kicking off what is still considered to be a 5-game road trip. And now with all those postponed games, Pilsy, the last 4 they've played were all on the road. So they're looking at, in all technicalities, again, with a 14-day break between one of those games, you're looking at a 9-game road trip technically. Again, they went home for plenty of that time. But Seattle, what are you expecting here up next? This is probably the best opportunity that Ottawa is going to get in the next few games here to get that 10th win.
Yeah, I'm hoping they get this game up against Seattle going, because they need, they need a team that's not like a playoff powerhouse here to just get your rhythm back and be able to keep pace with them and try to hold a lead for a little bit there. And I think Seattle is a team that they can do that. Now, I'm not really sure what Seattle's COVID protocol situation is right now, but even when that team's fully healthy, they don't have like a finisher. Like, they have good, decent depth, and they have guys that can score, like Eberle, Gord, Donskoy, guys like that. But really, there's not a one specific guy on that entire team that you're worried about. So this is a team where I want the Sens to have a chance. I want the young guys to step up, and I want to see them come flying out of the gates here. We cannot have another game where you don't get your first shot until 8 minutes in.
Yes, that is a troubling statistic now after the Philly and Toronto games. All right, Pilsy, let's get in. Before we do our New Year's resolutions, I want to give a shout out to another Sens prospect. We talked about Carson Latimer's hot stretch here since moving from Edmonton to Prince Albert. How about Zack Ostapchuk from the 2021 draft class? Just scored the overtime winner for Vancouver last night and now has 16 points in 26 games. Not numbers that'll fly off the page, but good to see him getting on the score sheet in an important fashion.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, this season, like with all the pauses and all the stuff going on, like it's going to be hard to be consistent. So for him to have a decent season there and to get an OT winner, like this is a good start for Ostapchuk. And look, other guys I wish they would have taken ahead of Ostapchuk for sure, but I still have a lot of faith, and I still like that Ostapchuk pick. And a lot of people, when it was announced, said there's some good potential here, and that was a nice snag by the Sens. So I got high hopes for Ostapchuk, and I can't wait to see what he does throughout the rest of the season.
I'm excited to see what the Belleville Senators do as an encore, because they got a much-needed win in Toronto on January 1st. So at least some Senators were playing well in Toronto on January 1st. And they got to do it again tonight. It's a Belleville Senators game day. But let's touch on that one. I know you watched it as well. Roby Jarventi gets his 4th goal of the year, the first goal of the calendar year after having his World Juniors cut short. Hate to say this, but today was supposed to be semifinal day at the World Juniors. I hate to do it, but I had to do it. Then he gets an assist on Rourke Chartier's game-winning goal. So great return to the B-Sens lineup for Roby Jarventi.
Yeah, much needed for Jarventi to get going here, because he, with his inconsistent style, like now he's on a hot streak. So I think he can keep this going. And I think the biggest takeaway, Ross, from that Belleville game was the penalty killing. Like the Marlies, they scored their lone goal on the power play, but they were 1 for 6. So Belleville was able to hold them off. And Mandalise, another great game. I'm glad he was able to get in. We saw Tyler Parks the earlier game. He's the Atlanta Gladiators goalie, so an ECHL guy, and he got lit up by the Marlies. So it was nice to see Mandalise get in there and shut the door and only allow 1 goal. Yeah,
it was his first start since being sent. And how tough would this be as a goalie, right? With Mando, his last 3 starts, November 27th, then December 10th, and then January 1st. So 2 weeks between starts, then 3 weeks. So
Man.
hopefully he doesn't have to wait that long. Matt Sogard is back with the team now.
That's good.
He was stuck in a hotel in Syracuse, which is a tough way to spend Christmas after testing positive on the road trip. But he's back with the team now. So you wonder if Tyler Parks might get sent back to Atlanta with the Gladiators. Of course, we'll let you know that if we know when Mads, the Great Dane, gets in between the pipes again. But hopefully that does happen sooner than later. But I want to see more of Mando, who's really improved. He now has played 10 games this year versus 9 last year. Save percentage up from 888 to 909. He's already got more wins, better goals against average by almost a goal and a half. So great progression here in Mando's second year pro. So let's hope he can continue that. Is there any other player that caught your eye on Belleville? I know that Igor got an assist. It was nice to see him back on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, I think, and just one more thing about Mando, Ross. I don't think anyone's had a tougher start to their pro career than him, right? Like, starting with the COVID season, like he was up and down in Belleville. He was taxi squad. He didn't get a chance to play in Brampton when the team folded. So I think really people looking at his numbers and being like, maybe he's, after winning Q goalie of the year, maybe he's not really the guy we thought he was. Give this guy a break. Like, he's had a tough stretch and he hasn't been able to be consistent on one team. So I really like what Mando's doing, and we're cheering for him, especially as he's been a guest on this show. You know, we always support our guys.
Of course.
So, now, speaking of the Belleville game, I thought I like Cole Reinhardt's game. I thought he was kind of all over the place. He did have a couple penalties, but he was getting good shots and he was playing an aggressive game. Parker Kelly is a guy I'd like to see a little more of, but he's someone too that hasn't really been consistently in the right spot here. And other than that, I thought Mackenzie Gannett looked decent, and he got the call up to Ottawa as well with more COVID uncertainties here. So I think there's a couple of guys that with Belleville getting more into the swing of things are going to look better as the season goes on here.
All right. And just an update yet from yesterday's practice as well for the Ottawa Senators. Chris Tierney and Thomas Chabot both didn't participate. You mentioned it. They are precautionary related to COVID-19 testing. So that would be just another centerman out of the mix. But again, the Senators do have a few days here. Not that those guys will be able to return, but hopefully the bug stops biting the Senators, because they're already at a lack of depth enough when they have a full roster. It's pretty cut and dry. The onion's been peeled down to its core, Pilsy. All right, let's get into some New Year's resolutions for some of the guys on the Ottawa Senators. Now, I'll just have a blanket statement to lead us off, Pilsy, and that's some good health, because everyone needs it, but this Sens team has just been decimated. Man, games lost and all that. It's been a very tough season from that standpoint. So I'm going to say just a blanket for all, some good health.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good one for anyone in any situation. We all need to be watching our health these days, and hopefully all the Sens players, Sens fans, we can all stay happy and healthy and watch some Sens games and hopefully get some Sens wins. So I like that one, Ross. Now, my resolution is, and they've already announced this, so like I just want them to stick to this. We were told they are going to a developmental philosophy from now on. So I don't want to see, and I think this will happen, Ross, but I don't want to see Josh Brown being brought in too early. He's not even fully healthy, and taking minutes away from, I know we talked about maybe Lassie, it's better if he's going down in Belleville, but with this going on, I'd rather Lassie playing in the NHL and getting NHL minutes rather than Josh Brown, right? So stick to what you said about developmental process. And another thing, holy crap, are we going to see Philip Gustafsson play a game of hockey anytime soon? He hasn't played since December 7th. Like, wow. This is your top goalie prospect. You need to get him in games. Now, I know it's not entirely their fault, and they're riding the hot hand of Forsberg, which I don't blame them for. So I'm giving them a pass there. But I don't want to see going forward, you're just shoveling Matt Murray out there just to get him out there. Like, I think Gus should start the next game. Now, I know he's recently coming off COVID protocol, but I think I don't know the situation, so I can't be certain, but I think it's been enough time that he should be able to start, if not Seattle, then the next game at the very least. So those are some big ones. And I already talked about Brandstrom. I think Brandstrom is ready to take a hold of a top 4 spot, and he might have to out of default. So those are the things, the New Year's resolutions. They've already mentioned that that's something they want to work on. So stick to it. Don't be the classic New Year's resolution. And the third week of January comes around and you say, whatever. Well, I don't need to go to the gym today. I'll sit on the couch. No, don't do that. Don't sit on the couch and give Josh Brown 20 minutes of ice time. Give it to the kids.
Yeah, I'm not very confident that's going to be the case.
Me neither.
At the very least, they're going to give Josh Brown an opportunity and see what he can do with it. But I think we've seen what he's been able to do with it or lack thereof. I got to tell Matt Murray, just keep your head up, buddy. Like, especially you start the new year, you're feeling good, and then some adversity happens right away. But that one, you just have to flush it and get back in the crease again. I'm with you. Get Gus in goal at least for 3 of the 5 games coming up on the road.
Yep.
But Matt Murray has to play too, and somehow, some way, feel better about his game, because it's just not at a level that I would even pay a $1 million salary to, let alone a guy making $6.25 million. It just feels crazy to even say that with the amount of losses that just keep piling up whenever he's between the pipes, circumstances and withstanding. So if you're Matt Murray, just try to flush all that still early in the year, calendar-wise, and just go out there. Because the problem is, and this works in many facets of life, is when something goes wrong, then you start squeezing the stick a little tighter and you get nervous, you lose confidence, and then the snowball effect happens. So how do you squash the snowball completely and build a snowman? That's Matt Murray's challenge here in the upcoming weeks and months. So I just want Matt Murray to take a deep breath. That's all. And another deep breath, New Year's resolution to Thomas Chabot, just a little more rest, right? Like, this guy's just been ran into the ground time after time. Don't worry, buddy. Jake Sanderson is coming, and he'll be able to take a bit of the load off of Thomas Chabot. Now, will he do it as a 19 turning 20-year-old, or are they going to have to wait maybe a year or two before he's taking 22, 25 minutes a night? Maybe, but there is backup coming. So Shabby, stay strong, buddy. Don't get run into the ground. Those are my 2 right there.
Honestly, yeah. And my second one, we've already talked about this, but I feel like it needs to be elevated, especially with the center depth here, is Tim Stützle really needs to work on faceoffs. Now, I know he's a young guy, so strength and experience is a thing. But, hey, if you want to be a centerman in the NHL, you don't just get to fly up and down the ice with the puck roaming around. A big part of that is winning faceoffs. So, and Ross, the funny thing is I started thinking, like, all right, he's got to get into practice and he's got to start working with the veteran centerman on this team on his faceoffs. And then I was like, well, how's he going to get better in faceoffs if everyone else on the team sucks at faceoffs and the only veteran centerman he can go up against is Chris Tierney? Like, how's he gonna get better in practice when that's how it is? So I don't know how to solve his New Year's resolution, but that's something he needs to work on. And I mean, that's something that you can work on constantly every day, and it's not going to burn you out, or COVID isn't going to be a big issue there, because it's more about timing and about getting your upper body strength right. So that's a big one. If we're going to have Tim Stützle playing top 6 minutes, he needs to improve on the faceoffs.
And he needs to be insulated, because I want to build off what you said there with just the lack of center depth in this organization. Whereas you look at an organization like Vegas and take away Jack Eichel, because we know they gave up top prospects and value to get him. But Chandler Stevenson, they got for a 5th round pick. This guy's top 5 in the NHL in even strength points, on pace for 84. And then Nicolas Roy, former World Junior player for Team Canada. He was acquired for Eric Holla, just kind of like a whatever trade, get an NHL player off the books, bring in a prospect. And he's got the same amount of 5-on-5 points as Kopitar Marchand and Andre Burakovsky. Got that from Harman Dayal, a Vancouver Canucks writer. And then somebody in the replies goes, add in, they got a 1st rounder to take William Karlsson in expansion.
Yeah.
So look at how much depth they're able to get just from being smart and using their scouting assets. If this center depth, think about it. The Sens scouted Dylan Gambrell. They plucked Gaudette off waivers. They had to have seen value in them. Just compare those 2, like Stevenson and Waugh, or Gambrell and Gaudette. Like, not a whole lot of difference in value going the other way when those players were brought in. So New Year's resolution, figure it out, pro scouting for the Ottawa Senators. That's got to be one. Absolutely. So, all right, well, we got to go with what the schedule says. And right now, the Senators are about to embark in a busy period until we're told otherwise. Of course, a lot of those games coming in Canada. So all bets are off because we know that protocol and restrictions, everybody's favorite words, are changing every single day. But as it stands now, the Senators are heading to be in Seattle for the 6th. Then they're going to be in Vancouver on the 8th, Edmonton on the 10th, Calgary on the 13th, and they finish up in Winnipeg on the 15th before their next scheduled home game, January 18th, Pillsy. They will be going a month plus a week between home games. The last home game was the 4-0 shutout win over the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Wow. That's wild to think of. But hey, Ross, I'll try to put a positive spin on this. Timmy Stützle loves scoring on the road. He loves scoring on the road, right? Hates scoring at home, but on the road, look out.
All right, that's another positivity sandwich, just like we did at the end of the postcast. So if you're looking for immediate reaction following each and every Ottawa Senators game, you can check out the postcast live, or you can stream it afterwards wherever you download your podcasts, including on YouTube. We appreciate everyone subscribing and hitting the thumbs up button there on YouTube. It goes a long way, and we're going to get through this. Not only the new restrictions and all that, but also this brutal stretch, not only without, but then they play, and it's even more nightmare than had they not even played. So we will prevail for sure. But for today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for listening and making Locked On Senators your first listen of the day. We do truly appreciate it. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.